Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC Charlotte. I'm Paul Shaughnessy. Cody Saftic's on the line. Producer Megan is on the sticks. The gang's back together, breaking down UFC Charlotte. This episode of Dogger Pass podcast and all episodes of Dogger Pass podcast are brought to you by PrizePicks. Use promo code DOP when making a new account to get a match up to $100 on your first deposit. Not the greatest card. We're kind of, we just had a pay-per-view, so it's like we're back to a little bit more of a greasy card. Next week's card is PU. Absolutely stink fest. Just a horrible card altogether. I actually think there's a lot of really, really fun fights. A lot of fights that we've actually already broken down. And then they were canceled, and now they ended up in Charlotte. But, without further ado, Code, let's get into the main event. I'm not going to be shocked by who we pick in this one, but is the number a little bit out of hand? We got Jailton Almeida taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Jailton Almeida is a minus 500 favorite. Rozenstruik can be had for plus 400. I mean, you never get a discount on the jail man, and I don't think until he takes a step backwards you're going to get one, because the guy has just been cutting through everybody without any sort of issue. He gets the takedown when he wants to. And when he takes you down there, his ground control, his submission ability, I mean, the guy's just a peak athlete. We kind of thought maybe he was going to go to 205 pounds, fight at light heavyweight, and that doesn't really seem to be the case. I think he's continuously getting bigger and plans to stay in this division. And I mean, it's tough. Rozenstruik doesn't get taken down too many times. Blades took him down 3 times. I mean, if Almeida struggles to get him down real early, we talk about Rozenstruik with the death touch, this could get real ugly really, really, really fast. In terms of a pick, this is the biggest difference in terms of like picks versus bets. I think Jailton gets the takedown. I think he gets it early. I think he beats the you-know-what out of Rozenstruik when he gets this fight to the mat. But at minus 500, they have taken all sort of questionable doubt out of me actually getting involved from a betting perspective. Like, it's heavyweight. Heavyweight volatility remains undefeated. Not going to fault anybody for taking like a Jairzinho Rozenstruik by KO prop or anything like that this week. You probably end up losing, but I mean, the price is set up for you to take that shot and probably lose. But we haven't really seen Jailton extended on the feet. If he's not able to get that takedown, things just get very, very interesting. So for a picks perspective, I guess it's Jailton Almeida, but I will not be betting that number. What's your take here?
Yeah, a lot of the same sentiments as you. I got Jailton Almeida, but it's such a big favorite at this point that what can go wrong? Because what's been going wrong every single week, Paul, it's like Murphy's Law. What can go wrong has seemingly been going wrong. And in this case, it's much of the same. I've got a big favorite in the main event. Well, what possibly could go wrong? Well, again, yeah, maybe best suited for 205 pounds. He don't look out of place, Jailton Almeida, as a heavyweight. The guy's absolutely cut up, looks like a Brazilian G.I. Joe action figure, and then goes out there and performs as well. But yeah, one has to imagine if he's not, maybe putting himself at a disadvantage by fighting some of these bigger guys. Because what do they have on him? Maybe just a puncher's chance. In Rozenstruik's case, he's a big heavyweight, and he's got the death touch. He's got a hell of a shot on him. Not only that, his takedown defense, 75% in the UFC. I would deem it as trash. He's going to get taken down, but it's not necessarily that he's just going to get pounded out in the first round. He did manage to go 3 rounds with Curtis Blades, gave up a takedown in every single round, wasn't able to get back up. Blades, not the kind of grappler that Jailton Almeida is. But like you're saying, we haven't seen him extended. So even if he gets early takedowns and doesn't finish Jairzinho Rozenstruik, could this become a sloppy heavyweight fight in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round if it was to get that far? Yeah, probably. They're big guys. One guy's absolutely jacked. He'll probably gas out. The other guy's Rozenstruik doesn't actually throw enough strikes to get gas. That's always his problem. He's just way too hesitant. And I think that would be his undoing here is that, yeah, he's got a puncher's chance. So he needs to go out there and he needs to throw his hands. But he's just super hesitant. He's got the touch, but he realizes that. And as such, he doesn't throw combinations. He doesn't set it up. He just looks for that kind of one big hitter quitter. But the entries from Jailton Almeida on his takedowns are mint, man. He's getting down all these guys multiple times. He's ragdolling them once he gets them down. He's already fought at heavyweight a couple times. Shamil Abdurakhimov, he's in his 40s and he's not what he used to be, but he's a big boy. And you're going to throw around a big boy like that, like nothing, effortlessly, and show good gas tank in that fight for however long it lasted. I think Almeida's, I'm going to say the real deal. I'm going to say the real deal because who wins these fights in most scenarios is like the superior wrestler grappler. And heavyweight doesn't have a whole lot of these guys that can go out and wrestle grapple. Curtis Blades is kind of known as the guy, but apparently he just doesn't have the durability or the ring IQ to pull it off, right? Almeida is one of those elite level grapplers who can get his man down and give them problems. He needs to show a deeper gas tank. He needs to show his ability to do it at a higher level, and this is his opportunity. So seeing how Volkov, I know the fight didn't hit the ground, but seeing how Volkov just dismantled Rozenstruik, I don't know that his durability is good enough to get mounted and thrashed on for 4 minutes and survive. So I think Almeida gets the takedown. I think he probably passes Stamann or takes the back. And then I'm thinking he finishes him under 1.5. If the fight was to get to that second or third round, do you pull the panic button? Well, you got to wait and see how tired Almeida is at that point. Because if he can still just rinse and repeat with takedowns, easy money. If he's curling over and he's tired and Rozenstruik's still standing there, you're going to have a problem. Maybe pull the shoot later on, if it got that far. I'm thinking under 1.5, Jailton Almeida. I'm thinking by TKO, not submission. Like, I think he just, mounts him and pounds him out from that position. But again, anything's possible. Probably just inside the distance instead of trying to go with one specific method of victory.
I think one of these numbers is wrong on PrizePicks. They've got fight time set at 4 minutes, which is obviously super, super low. But when you've got one guy with the death touch, one guy with the grappling ability that's super, super elite, I don't think it's stunning. And then they got Jailton Almeida 1.5 takedowns, which I feel like one can't be right without the other. I think if Jailton gets him down early, then okay. So I don't think that Rozenstruik gets back up. Like when Rozenstruik's been taken down in most of his UFC fights, his get-up game isn't great. He usually spends the rest of the round on his back. So it's like one of those is wrong, one of those is right. I'm actually tending to lean towards, I think it covers more of your tracks on PrizePicks, which is scary with Almeida because obviously he's shooting for takedowns right from the hop, but under 1.5 takedowns, I think that covers you from, heavyweight volatility, somebody actually just landed, or Rozenstruik, or even Almeida landing just an absolutely ferocious blow and his opponent being rendered unconscious, or Almeida takes him down once, absolutely pummels him down there and gets the finish. Based on like the market right now, like 4 minutes is probably pretty accurate in terms of how they've got it priced on PrizePicks. I'm not saying I love it on PrizePicks, but under 1.5 takedowns has my attention at the very least.
If you think it's going to be a 1-round fight, then absolutely. Because if you look at Jailton Almeida, he has scored over that 1.5 in 4 of his 5 registered fights with the UFC. One on Contender Series, where he beat Nasruddinov, 3 takedowns, right? His UFC debut against Daniil Marquez, 2 takedowns. Parker Porter not great off his back, so he just needed the one and he smashed him. But Anton Turkalj can wrestle, Shamil Abdurakhimov can wrestle. He took each of them down 3 times. So yeah, not necessarily a guy that just needs the one takedown, but in the case of Rozenstruik, how good's his get-up game? He was taken down by Overeem and controlled by Overeem on the ground. He got, taken down by Blades and had absolutely nothing to show him. At least Volkov got up 22 times, and Rozenstruik couldn't get up once. So yeah, I would say I'm leaning towards what you're getting at probably is the under 1.5. And then if you think it's under 1.5, you mean you think the fight's going to end in the first round? Because if not, the fight gets into the second round, those 2 takedowns. So you're implying first round finish, 1 takedown. Then the 4 minutes is accurate, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe he finishes them at the 4:30 mark, but yeah, probably. I don't love the 4 minutes, but the 1.5, I could see it. Like I could see him just finishing him with 20 seconds left on the clock. Like not necessarily 4 minutes. Like take the whole 5 minutes if need be, but. Yeah, I'm leaning towards that first round finish. Under 1.5, as I said. The under 1.5 of the takedown. If you think it's going to be a first round finish, that's where you would go with it too.
I like it, don't love it. I think it's kind of scary trying to take a Jailton Almeida under takedowns prop. I will say that much. All right, co-main event. We got Anthony Lionheart-Smith taking on Johnny Walker. Straight pick 'em, homie. Who you got?
Yeah, okay, so we got basically a 50-50 fight here, and it's basically both guys I think can win the fight based on their skill set, but we got to go over the question marks and who's going to find a way to shit in the apple pie. So let's start with Anthony Smith, because I think if he was at his best, then he would be the favorite. He's got vastly more experience. You know that he can fight into these later rounds. And honestly, Paul, you've seen this time and time again. Anthony Smith, some of his best performances is when he gets thrashed early and is able to keep going, right? His fight with Hector Lombard, he's easily down. His fight with, I think, Volkan Oezdemir, he was guess. But the later the fights go, right? Andrew Sanchez, third round finish. Hector Lombard, third round finish. Volkan Uzmir, third round finish. Alexander Gustafsson, fourth round finish. So again, he's somebody that I think can finish the later the fight goes, find a way to break his opponent down. Whereas Johnny Walker has that big explosiveness, those big, athletic movements. But as a result, he's either getting these first round knockouts, yeah, or he's probably going to tire himself out and just fights a lackluster type game plan. So I would prefer Anthony Smith style, which is just, survive that early storm that Johnny Walker's going to bring to you and then slow him down, try to get the takedowns going. He's way better on the ground, a legitimate Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. If he can get on top, he'll be able to suck some of that early energy out of him, slow him down to his pace, and then, put a beating on him. Work your way towards that rear naked choke. Again, if I thought he was at his best, but 34 years old, that's not necessarily the issue. It's the 50 plus pro fights. It's the fights at 185 pounds and 205 pounds and strike force and almost 10 years in the UFC. Like Anthony Smith, to me, his body's definitely breaking down. Like again, 34, not super old, but yeah, when you've got 50 plus fights, you become like a Joe Riggs. Joe Riggs is Paul age, but if you've ever met Joe Riggs, he's like 57. Like his body's just completely thrashed. His face is thrashed. He's beaten up. Anthony Smith, I get it. He's 3-1 in his last 4 fights. So recently, not doing too bad. But I key into that last fight with Magomed Ankalaev, where like his leg is seriously busted up. He's taken off 10 months since then. He's not getting any younger. Johnny Walker is an explosive dynamo. If you're not fast, if you're not, if you've got some ring rust to shake off, if you're not on point, then yeah, he's going to get to you. He's way faster. He's a better striker, I think. Anthony Smith's got a nasty jab on him, but Johnny Walker's got those big explosive movements. So part of me wants to just switch over to Johnny Walker and say, he's been fighting recently. He's been doing good recently. He's got his confidence back. He's got his swag back. He's got more than enough power to clip Anthony Smith with something. And even if he doesn't clip Anthony Smith with something, he's got a much longer reach, and he could probably just play to the outside, use that speed, use that agility, and just win from the outside. But yeah, it's Johnny Walker we're talking about. Like he's a hard guy to trust for the most part. So I think I'm just going to officially go with Anthony Smith, see what I can see at weigh-ins, and just hope that he's fully healthy and ready to go. Because again, him at his best, better wrestler than Johnny Walker, better jiu-jitsu than Johnny Walker. That jab of his, man, again, I mean, people want to talk shit about, his jab. Just watch his fights, watch his fight with Glover Teixeira where he's piecing him up before unfortunately falling apart late. His fight with Jimmy Crute, just nasty, just beating him from the outside. He's very fast. He's high-level coaching, high-level ring IQ. That's why he's a broadcaster and like an analyst. The guy sees things, and I think that he'll see the path to beating Johnny Walker, pick him apart, play it smart. But 205-pound guy is way easier said than done. So I could see him getting smashed with the flying knee, or I could see him coming out flat after a 10-month layoff, or coming out slow. 50-plus fights is finally taking its toll on him. His leg's not fully healed. I can see all the bad side of things for sure, but I need to stay optimistic. And optimistically speaking, I think that at even money, Anthony Smith's got a superior skill set all around. So I'll take Lionheart to pull off a win in his comeback.
Yeah, I'm with you. I backed Johnny Walker last time out against Paul Craig, and people were pretty up in arms about that pick. And I was just like, he'll play it pretty smart. And Paul Craig is just so one dimensional. It's just like he needs to get you to the ground. He needs you to follow him a lot of the times to the ground because his wrestling isn't great. But like, yeah, Lionheart Smith's got a pretty well-rounded game all the way around, and I mean, it's light heavyweight. Both of these guys can crack. Both of these guys can knock each other out in the first round, and I think Walker is more likely to get the job done early like that. But if Anthony Smith's able to hang around for a bit, if he's able to secure some takedowns, I think he can definitely capitalize over Johnny Walker here. So not a fight I'm really. I feel like I have much of an edge on. I think a pick'em is probably pretty fair. Like it's a fight with a lot of volatility, a lot of question marks that you brought up on both sides. But I'll side ever so slightly with Anthony Smith as well. We move on. We've got Ian Machado Garry taking on Daniel Rodriguez, minus 315 for Garry, plus 265 for Rodriguez. I've been fading Ian Garry. I don't think his game's completely filled out, but here's my struggle with Rodriguez is I really don't think he has the skill set that I'm looking for in a Garry fade. Now, what do I know? I mean, I've been fading him against much lower level of competition. This is definitely a step up. He's got a guy who's a certified banger, a guy who can go 15 minutes, who can throw 100 significant strikes. But I feel like this probably turns into a 15-minute, striking affair between the two of these guys. And you got Garry with super, super long reach. His technique is pretty strong. I think it's going to be one of those things where the fight goes to decision, and Garry, it's kind of, very, very close decision. Garry gets on the mic afterwards, pretends that, he just delivered, Jesus Christ in the moment. He's done the greatest thing for MMA, but I think it's going to be like a close, contentious decision, and I think Gary's going to edge him out. Minus 315 isn't great. I actually added him to a parlay at minus 250 at a book that was kind of slow to move, but it's not even a really big play on that parlay. I've backed D-Rod in a lot of spots, and I just don't think this is the spot for him to get back on track. If I knew that he could come out here and utilize some wrestling, then I would be interested in it, but I haven't really seen much of that in his game whatsoever. So I think Gary's the rightful favorite, minus 315. It's getting pretty ugly at that price, though. What's your take?
Yeah, it's the price that definitely throws you off. I mean, Ian Gary's someone that's just had a ton of support right from the get-go. His UFC debut against Jordan Williams, he's a minus 425 favorite. And again, he's losing the first round before Williams just runs headfirst into a counter and got himself KO'd. So minus 425 favorite in his debut. Didn't really look good until he got the finish. All the same, you move on. He goes the distance with Darian Weeks as a minus 400 favorite. He goes the distance with Gabe Green as a minus 250 favorite. And then his last time out against Song Kanon, the easiest of all of his opponents so far in the UFC, he comes in as a registered minus 770 favorite. And again, he gets knocked down early by Song Kanon. He didn't necessarily look good until he found a way to start using his infinite gas tank, solid speed, and when you're fighting a low level guy like Song Kanon, you're gonna find your openings, and he did, and he TKOs him in the third round. So I like his cardio. I think the kid can fight for 3 rounds. If they eventually booked him in a 5-round fight, depending on the opponent, if he got into those championship rounds, I think he's still gonna be fresh. That's one aspect of the game I like about him. He seems to have some decent mobility, some decent speed, but defensively, he's no marvel. He's there for the counter. If Song Kanon can clip him, other guys are gonna do exactly that. Daniel Rodriguez more of a volume puncher than a pure power puncher. So maybe Gary's chin's good enough to check out in that situation. But yeah, listen, he thinks he's the next coming of Conor McGregor. And the facts are 25, still young, definitely going to keep getting better. Trains over at Sanford MMA or whatever they changed their name to Kill Cliff FC, the Black Zillions, essentially. He's training with world-class guys. No doubt he is improving. But yeah, they got to match him up soft or he's going to get exposed. And Daniel Rodriguez, I don't necessarily know that I would call him soft. So because of the line, if you're just an underdog chaser, if you're a value boy guy, I think you got to go with Daniel Rodriguez. He's got way more experience. He's fought way better guys than Ian Garry. He's got enough. Again, he's someone that has gone out there and scored over 100 significant strikes in a couple of fights. So he's got the volume. He's got durability. What's there not to like? On the other side of it, it's it looks like it's more of a matchup that's favored towards Garry because he's faster. Daniel Rodriguez, I believe, 37 years old now, only 25 veteran, but he himself is starting to slow down. I thought his last 2 fights, he looked no good. He took the Jingliang Li fight on a day's notice, but Jingliang Li moved up 10 pounds from 170 to 180. So Jingliang Li was at the disadvantage. And split decision win for Daniel Rodriguez. Definitely one that I think you could have scored for Jingliang Li as well. It was a very close fight. And then in his very next fight with Neil Magny, gives up 5 takedowns and just gets routed on the ground. That's a problem. Now, Ian Garry hasn't really shown much wrestling. I think his offensive grappling is okay once the fight is on the ground, but I don't know how good his wrestling is. So I can't say for sure that he'll be able to take down Daniel Rodriguez whenever he wants. But if he just, again, plays the matador to the outside, uses that speed, uses that lateral movement, picks and chooses his shots, and then mixes in a couple takedowns along the way, he should win. But should and need him to do certain things, at minus 305, at 3-1 as a favorite, he's prime for the taking. Guys, you're not the only one that's been trying to fade him. Bunch of guys have been trying to fade him because they can see he's really not all that good. Mm-hmm. It's which opponent is going to be the guy to expose him. Daniel Rodriguez is hands down the best guy he's fought, so maybe he's the guy. Maybe he's the guy. But I don't know that I got the cojones myself to pull the trigger outright. So I would just lean towards pass, but unfortunately we can't pass, so it's dog or pass, and I'm going to end up taking the dog, Daniel Rodriguez. But it would be the PRP pick. It would be all the way at the bottom. The confidence level isn't quite there, but it's a value pick, and I could see him winning as well. So for the odds, I'm picking him, but not because of the analysis.
Fair enough. All right, we got Alex Morono taking on Tim the Dirty Bird Means. Morono is a minus 235 favorite. The Dirty Bird can be had for plus 200. Who you got?
Yeah, so we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago with Julian Erosa. Like Julian Erosa's got a wicked good skill set, man. The guy can wrestle. He's got very deep cardio. He's got very nice striking. He's very fluid. But like that one little thing of his game that he missed was his ability to take the punch. And unfortunately, you just can't back guys like that, right? They have durability issues. They could be fighting a world class opponent and get caught. They could be fighting a very low level opponent and get caught. And so we backed Fernando Padilla at slight dog money for no other reason than Julian Erosa no longer could be trusted. You got dropped a whole pile of times and ends up getting stopped, right? It's not like we're a genius here. It's just that you're following the trend that you don't want these guys with durability issues. When I look at Tim Means has got a world-class skill set. The guy is an elite level striker when he's at his best. Very tricky with his setups. His timing and his rhythm is very offbeat. Solid footwork. Defensively, he could roll a little bit more with his shots. But again, he has an awkward style, tough to get timing on. He can wrestle. He can grapple. And when he's in shape, he can fight for 15 full minutes. But he's so untrustworthy at this stage of his career because, again, here's a fighter that's 39 years old and he's got 50 pro fights. So the durability is going to leave you. The speed's going to leave you. The reflexes and the timing is going to leave you. And him, similar to Erosa, he doesn't fight with a high guard. He doesn't fight with a type of style where he defends himself. He fights out with an all-action style. And you're going to need some durability to get by doing that. So his last couple of fights, he was looking good against Kevin Hall and eventually gets caught, eventually gets submitted. His fight with Max Griffin, a lot more competitive than I thought it would be. But by the way, a split decision fight. But you can see where he's slowing down as the fight goes on. You can see where the wear and tear is starting to add up for him. Again, a guy that can, on his best day, beat a lot of guys in the division. But at 39, 50 fights into his career, his best day is a little bit behind him. So him at his best probably gives Alex Morono all types of fits. But at this point, I think Morono coming off a knockout loss to Santiago Ponzinibbio, so we got to see how that affects him. But prior to that, yeah, he's got that kind of style where he'll just march you back, take a couple shots, land a couple shots, and then have some volume. It reminds me a lot of the Donald Cowboy Cerrone fight for Alex Morono, where Cerrone is way better than Alex Morono at his best, but Morono's not fighting him at his best. He's fighting an aged version of Cerrone who's kind of got one foot out the door. At his best, I think Tim Means gives him all types of problems again, but this is not him at his best. Tim Means have a good start. If he doesn't get that knockout win the first 3-4 minutes of the fight, then I expect Morono to just chew away at him, force a late stoppage. If Morono comes out guns a-blazing early and is able to back up Tim Means, again, he could probably take him out as well. But Morono's fought in good strikers before. He's fought in Donald Cerrone. He's fought in Anthony Pettis. He went 3 rounds with Santiago Ponzinibbio his last time out. It didn't go the full 3 rounds when he made it to the 3rd round. I don't think that Tim Means is going to be able to just catch him off guard and knock him out in the first, but it's possible because it is MMA. It is Alex Morono. He's coming off a knockout loss. How does that affect him? And again, the Dirty Bird, maybe he's got one more flight left in him. I'm just doubting it on a personal level. So we'll take Alex Morono to get the job done, which pains me because we've been doing this show for like 9 years and we've been covering Tim Means fights pretty much that entire time. He's an OG. We're going to talk about Matt Brown later. Another OG. That was a great fight between the two of them, by the way. But again, it's like OGs. It's a young man's game. Like the sport eventually passes you by. I almost feel like Means is just not what he once was.
Yeah, no, I see where you're coming from on that front. My biggest struggle, I just can't get behind the Dirty Bird at this point. He seems to really absolutely gas about 6-7 minutes into every single fight. Haven't seen much of a grappling game from Morono in the UFC, but kind of curious, what is Alex Morono?
The Riz McGee fight is like the only time. He's a BJJ black belt.
I know.
I don't know how, but he is.
Everyone is a BJJ black belt at this level, buddy.
Ron Gracie.
It seems people are kind of onto it. They're reading the tea leaves that I am. We'll see where like the market goes from there. They opened it at 9-1 at one place, and people are scooping it up. So like that was kind of my initial thought, is that it could be a little bit competitive early, but it's been a long time since Tim Means has knocked somebody out in the first round. Like he's more of a volume guy, but then he gasses in like round 2. Wouldn't be stunned to see, maybe he has a little bit of success early. Alex Morono mixes in the takedowns and fishes for a sub, but people are wise to it. The markets are a lot sharper these days, Code. Because, yeah, I was just like, oh, this is like, a little bit out in left field. And it's just like, no, it already moved from 9-1 to 6.5-1. So somebody else out there is seeing the same stuff that I am. Morono is both of our picks, obviously. All right, we got Court McGee taking on Matt the Immortal Brown. Minus 235 Court McGee, plus 200 for Matt Brown. Both of these guys, Cody, were declared legally dead, I believe, at some point in their life. Some of them, or was it Matt Brown's been like multiple times? Or no, it's Court McGee multiple times? Either way, both of these guys have
died.
Have seen the other side and came back, and then, I mean, it's a kind of a legends fight at this point. Matt Brown is really, really hard to back, I think, in general at this point in his career. He's been an absolute legend, but I was talking to somebody else about this earlier, and it's just like, I think this fight could be super, super easy. I added Court McGee to like this chalk parlay that I was talking about earlier. It's Garry, McGee, and Ulberg, who we'll talk about later. I mean, Ulberg's actually further up the card. They changed the bout order in between me making this sheet and us recording. So it is what it is. But I think Court McGee can make this fight very easy on himself by sticking to the wrestling, getting up in Matt Brown's face, and getting takedowns and securing them and holding him in position. You get him in front of a crowd and you in Charlotte and everyone's kind of excited, and this turns into a greasy old guy striking affair. That leg could be definitely a little bit dicey. I think McGee wins. I'm going to give him obviously the grappling edge, and I think if he sticks to that type of game plan, it's a pretty easy fight for him to win. But these old guys, they could go out there and be like, gentleman's agreement to go get fight of the night. So McGee will be the pick for me. What about you?
Yeah, so actually that worst case scenario did happen to me one time before with Court McGee. Court McGee is minus 165 favorite, I believe, rolling in against Carlos Condit, who had dropped 6 straight fights. Carlos Condit is done. Carlos Condit cannot wrestle. Carlos Condit had given up. Takedown to Damian Maia and then subbed right away. 6 takedowns to Neil Magny. 3 takedowns to Cowboy Oliveira. 4 takedowns to Michael Chiesa. He fights Court McGee, who attempted 0 takedowns. Court McGee instead just stood with him and kickboxed the whole time and lost because Carlos Condit is actually still a not bad kickboxer. So, like, why would you do that? But yeah, it goes back to your gentleman agreement thing. He said kind of afterwards, like, oh, I'm friends with Carlos Condit, and we've both been around for a long time, and I wanted to please the crowd. I didn't just want to take him down and grind on him, which is what everybody had been doing to him recently. I want to have this fight with him, and unfortunately, having this fight for the crowd is one thing. It's honorable, but for the better, not what you're kind of looking to get behind, because I need him to fight a winning game plan, not an exciting game plan. So I think 38 years old, the guy's trials and tribulations, the ultimate fighter. He lost. He comes back on the show. All great stuff for Court McGee, right? Matt Brown, he has all the same things. Former Ultimate Fighter veteran, died of a drug overdose, has this crazy comeback story, has paid his dues and is a striker. Now, which could be a send-off for both guys, do you go out there and have a gentleman's agreement? Let's just have some fun and throw down one last time, Ed Herman, Zach Cummings style. We both can retire afterwards. Or do you fight what is the winning game plan? Yeah, I would need Court McGee to wrestle a lot more. But I will say this with Matt Brown, right? As both guys, I used to have this theory. Right? Once you died of a drug overdose and came back and then later became a professional prize fighter, you had like infinite cardio because Court McGee died, came back, and like the guy has gas tank for days. He has like a bottomless gas tank. Matt Brown came back, he had the endless gas tank. Ian McCall, he died, he come back. It was like, the guy arguably beat Demetrius Johnson. Had they gone to a sudden death victory round, he wins this fight. All I'm saying is it was like that was a theory. Oh, Jared Gordon died of a drug overdose. He comes back and it's like, that's his thing, dude. The guy's got 15 minutes cardio all day. So that was the theory, right? It was kind of a joke, but it was also like, has anybody else died in the UFC? I don't think so. So how else can you compare? The 4 guys that have all had great gas tank. Matt Brown at 42 years old, the gas tank's not there anymore. I think that was one of his deepest weapons, is that you saw him get rocked against Jordan Mean. You've seen him get rocked against Eric Silva. You've seen him get rocked against Tim Means. And he comes back in all those fights because he had an endless gas tank. He could take that early wear and tear and then come back. But now that his chin's not what it used to be, the durability's not what it used to be, the speed, the reflexes, the timing, the defenses, all of those things just aren't quite what they used to be. He's looking to wrestle a lot more. Like he went in that Bryan Barberena fight, he scored 5 takedowns over Bryan Barberena, which is the way to fight Bryan, don't get me wrong. But that's not Matt Brown. That's not how he fights. Like whenever Bryan was standing with him, he was getting hit. He was getting shelled. He was looking to clinch up and take him down. It was a close fight. It was a competitive fight. You could argue Matt Brown won it because he had the takedowns, but again, he was taking a lot of damage in that fight, and it's a while ago. Since then, he has his own gym. He mostly trains at his own gym with Mark Coleman, who's like, on the comeback from like a near death experience. So like, even though he's an OG legend, like I don't know how much of a training partner he would be to you at this point. And outside of that, it's just like some younger students that he's got, AJ Dobson, like some younger guys in the gym that are helping him get ready. But I don't know. I don't know that I can't get behind him. I really can't. Whereas Corey McGee, I think he's got the better gas tank. So if this thing gets into late second round, third round, I think he'll still be around. His kickboxing is good enough to fight Matt Brown at this stage of both of their careers. And again, if he just decides to wrestle a little bit, he'll definitely be able to take him down, accrue some top control time, and win that way. So I got to go with the durability and the cardio, which both still favor Court McGee. So I too will take Court McGee, but it's an old man legends fight, which I am so down for. Don't get me wrong. Like this is the people's main event as far as I'm concerned, because I'm a mega fan, but I'm not expecting it to be all that good. It could be Chuck Liddell versus Tito Ortiz 3. Like nothing could be that bad, but you know what I'm saying. Like don't have high expectations for the glory days, because like the glory days just ain't there anymore. I like this card, not on a betting perspective, but on a like respect perspective. There's a lot of OG legends, in my opinion, on this card. Guys that have paid their dues, a bunch of 50-plus fight veterans. In this case, a 42-fight veteran and a 33-fight veteran, I believe, but guys that have been around the block. But as a result, going to be greasy. It's going to be a greasy card in Carolina that starts at 11:30 in the morning for whatever reason.
All right, we got Karl Williams taking on Chase Sherman, a fight that we already had a 3-1 shoey bet on, and Sherman pulled out like fight day. On fight day, I think it absolutely like smacked around people's like DFS lineups, which is, I mean, pretty tough scene. Williams was obviously for grapplers pay off pretty well and that type of stuff. Williams was super chalky, and people were not pleased about it. I'm not entirely. I'm looking up right now, like why did Chase pull out that day? That is a little bit of concern, because like I'm not
to go to Slam Town.
I'm not a coward, so it's not like, I mean, we had the deal before. I feel like we probably just have to run the deal back because we haven't done a shoey in a while. So a 3-1 shoey is back on the table. I just slid it over to your people. Whether your people accept the terms of said deal is totally on you, but yeah, I mean, him pulling out makes me a little bit more hesitant on it. I haven't made a bet on him this time. I'm more interested in watching the markets move. Maybe if we get to plus 400, I'll have to partake. But I mean, I understand all of the cases for Karl Williams. Chase Sherman's very, very easy to take down. Karl Williams has shown in his UFC fights that he is coming forward. He is looking for takedowns. The only way that this gets ugly for him is if he just decides to stand and trade. And even if he stands and trades, it's not like Chase Sherman is the most durable guy on the roster by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he was lucky to get to the final bell against Waldo. He ate some big shots there. And then, Waldo goes out there and looks kind of rudimentary in his follow-up performance. So I understand why I'm a little bit more like understanding of why the line is the way it is right now. I'm going to say heavyweight volatility for the purpose of this show. I'm picking Chase Sherman, but I'm a little bit more hesitant, a little bit less gung-ho than last time. Maybe the only bet I'll have on it is our shoey bet that if you accept, that is, unless you want the way out the back door, which wouldn't be shocked.
No, I'll take it. Yeah, if Karl Williams was the one that pulled out on the day of the fight the last time, yeah, I probably would be thinking about it. But no, I feel even better now than I did the last time. Chase Sherman, I feel like Chase Sherman's done the UFC favors, and the UFC's done Chase Sherman a lot of favors. They've matched him up incredibly soft over his couple of tenures, and mostly against like stand and bang guys that are a little bit slow, a little bit lethargic. And last time out, they gave him Waldo Cortez Acosta, who's got pro boxing experience and is very much middling. And Chase Sherman went out there and took him down, mounted him the first round, gassed out after that, got beat up, got outstruck like 147 to 66, and looked awful. I think the UFC is like, oh, yeah, that's not how you're supposed to fight that guy. You're supposed to stand and bang for the crowd. We gave you your type of fight, and you try to grapple the guy. Now you can take on a grappler, buddy. So now he's taking on Karl Williams. Fight gets canceled. If he was still in good graces, they would just offer him a stand-up opponent. Instead, they just rebooked the same fight. So he knows at this point he needs to show up, take his beating to Karl Williams, hopefully still have a UFC job, and they'll book him in some fun fights down the road. But it's time for him to pay the piper, essentially. When you look at the main event, heavyweights, I talked about it. It's like, the price? Do you feel comfortable with this kind of price? But they're not middling heavyweights. They're world-class heavyweights. We don't love Rozenstruik, but he's still a top 5, top 10 guy. And Jailton Almeida, well, he might very well be the truth. This is middling heavyweights, Paul. And as you always discuss, the big plus money price tags on middling heavyweights, anything can happen because Jailton Almeida, maybe not really a heavyweight, but he don't look at a place at heavyweight. Karl Williams, not really a heavyweight either. He's had 2 fights at heavyweight. Don't think he's the biggest guy going, even if he clocks in at 240, 250. His frame and structure is not very, very big. But the thing with these light heavyweights that move up, like a John Jones, I guess, is you're going to be a lot faster than a lot of the heavyweights. Simply just being that smaller guy, having that mobility, having that agility. And if you can wrestle, which a John Jones can, and a Jailton Almeida can, and in this case, a Karl Williams can, yeah, you'll take the bigger man down. They don't seem to have issues with that. His last time out against Berchinski, Berchinski's only 236 pounds, so he's not the biggest guy going, but Williams just tossed him around. And again, we broke this down the last time we broke this fight down. The end of the first round, you've already won the first round. There's no point in exerting yourself for no good reason. At the end of the first round, he picks up Brzezinski up in the air and German suplexes him on his head. Total waste of energy. It looks like he's tired, and it seems like it's a bonehead move. And then second and the third round, rinse and repeat, right back to it. He didn't really gas. Brzezinski gassed from trying to carry Williams' weight the whole time, and that's what I expect out of Chase Sherman here. So, yeah, middling heavyweight's puncher's chance, I get it. With Rozenstruik, he's got a legitimate puncher's chance. He hits you, you're going down. Chase Sherman can hit you 140, 150 times, and in a lot of cases, is still fine. So like his puncher's chance is not really as big and crazy and worrisome as a Jairzinho Rozenstruik. So for that reason, yeah, I'm definitely not switching to taking Karl Williams. The issue that I've been having every week is, to me, Karl Williams ends up on the top ticket this week. But Karl Williams is not a real heavyweight. Mm-hmm. He's extremely middling. He's not good. He's just fighting a guy that's even worse. And he's like 4-1, 5-1. I'm gonna trust this guy as a top ticket play. So people will hit me up, be like, "You're an idiot. You're an idiot." It's like, he just seems like he's the most safest guy in the card that he should win, but that doesn't mean he's good. It's just I'm going by this style clash that I perceive as being good in my head. Anyways, time will tell, but I got to go with Williams.
I mean, here's the thing about Chase, too, though, is that like he's not exactly like a power puncher. Yes, he did knock down Ike Villanueva, and he knocked down Rashad Coulter. Those are like his 2 knockdowns in his career. He's more of a volley. Oh, I guess Vandera as well, he knocked down. But like he didn't put those guys away. Late in the third round, Vandera is super, super tired. Turns into that type of fight. So, I mean, if Williams has any sort of beard on him, he should be able to take a little bit of punishment, which on PrizePicks at three takedowns for Karl Williams. He got 8 last time out against Brzezinski. Doesn't seem to have like
the over.
I like the over too. That's what I was saying, is that he doesn't seem to have like a big time like submission threat when he gets fighters down there. 8 times, against Brzezinski. We know that Chase Sherman struggles. I mean, in like 2 minutes, Romanov was able to get to 3 takedowns, and then he finished him with a key lock. He was able to take Sherman down 3 times. So it's like, we know that Sherman's got a half-decent get-up game. He's a pretty big body for heavyweight. I think you could probably clear 3 takedowns. And this fight is like, it's ever so slightly, it's shaded to minus 140 to the under 2.5 rounds. So it's like, there's a good chance that this goes 15 minutes. And if this fight gets into round 3, I feel pretty confident that that Williams gets well over 3 takedowns. So over 3 takedowns, kind of like that on PrizePicks as well. Moving on down, we got Cody Stamann taking on Douglas Silva de Andrade, minus 145 for Stamann, plus 125 for de Andrade. I've been backing like Andrade in a whole bunch of spots, and I feel like a lot of the times it's because I think the market is kind of disrespecting him. He's obviously a specimen of an athlete. The guy's just like, I mean, if somebody were to be on roids, they would look like Douglas Silva de Andrade. The guy's like in his late 30s and just gacked. But it's like he goes out there and he's, plus 170 against Sergey Morozov. He's a big dog against Said. He was reasonably priced against Gaetano Pirello. Lerone Murphy's a massive dog against him. So it's like he's perpetually underrated. Now I feel like he's got a pretty decent-sized step up in competition. And the number's not as alluring as it's been in a lot of fights. I'm going to side with Stamann here. I think Stamann at 1.5 takedowns on PrizePicks seems a little bit low. I think he goes into this matchup and really utilizes his wrestling. I know he's been trying to show some of his hands in previous matchups, but that's how you get in trouble against Douglas Silva de Andrade. If you're just throwing leather, then good luck with that. I think Stamann can fight this one smart. Minus 145 doesn't seem too bad to me. Just don't need a big shot and put a pace on this guy. So, yeah, Stamann for me, I just don't – I was kind of expecting this to be more like minus 200, plus 170, to be perfectly honest. What's your take here?
So the fight gets announced. I'm a huge Cody Stamann fan, not just because he's got a badass first name, but again, this guy's very good, very well-rounded. He fights top-level competition, and how could you not get behind him? So I feel like Cody Stamann definitely goes out there and wins this fight. I expect it to be lined about minus 200, and I'm willing to pay the minus 200. I see the minus 145, and it sinks in on me. I'm like, you know what? It is a trap line. And the people that are betting the Douglas de Andrade site, they got a decent pick. I am still going to go Stamann, but hear me out on this. Why it feels trappy to me anyways. Cody Stamann's a badass, man. The guy can wrestle. He can strike. He's fought in some of the best guys. When you look at who the UFC's matched him up against, yeah, Said Nurmagomedov, Lerone Murphy, Peter Yeon. He's fought. No, that's the other way. He's fought Said Nurmagomedov, Merab Dvalishvili, Jimmy Rivera. So it's a three-fight losing streak. At the time, Jimmy Rivera's top-ranked guy. Merab Dvalishvili, basically the current GOAT right now in the division. Said Nurmagomedov, guy's on a completely good run. So they give him a favor by giving him the Eddie Wineland fight. It's like, hey, man, thanks for taking the really tough ones. Here's a free win. Knocks out Eddie Wineland in the first round. Looks good. Now he rolls into this Luan Lacerda fight. Well, I load up on him. He's a top-ticket guy. I think a lot of people have a lot of faith in him in that spot. Here's the thing, man. He gets very cute in there. The rest, like, non-existent. Shoots 2 takedowns, easily stuffed, and then just backs away. In fact, he gives up a takedown in almost 2 minutes of top control time to Luan Lacerda, who's making his UFC debut. Not only that, but I mean, like, the rounds were really close. He was landing the more volume, but I mean, they're like jabs from the outside. They're low kicks from the outside, whereas Lacerda was landing the more damaging blows. Now, this comes down to a razor-close split decision, similar to Chaos Williams' fight against Bedoya this weekend. Like, I think we won, but I don't feel good about it. And Stamann gets the decision. So just out of curiosity, I'm like, did everybody else agree? And I look, and Wrestling Observer, Combat Press, Cage Side Judges, Bloody Elbow again, Sure Dog, MMA Junkie, Sure Dog again. Actually, 4 guys from Sherdog. Everyone there scored it for Lacerda on a 29-28. So even though the volume was from Stamann, and Cody Stamann did actually outstrike him by the numbers and the volume in all 3 rounds, the heavier shots were coming from Lacerda. And again, that just leaves it subjective to the judges. What are they looking for? The more accumulative damage or those big shots? Now, in Douglas de Andrade's case, the guy's built like a fire hydrant. So taking him down is a problem. The guy's got solid takedown defense. Not only that, he's not a big volume puncher, so Stamann is definitely going to outwork him, I think, but he's got the big power. He's got those big eye-catching blows. If you just struggled against Luan Lacerda, you're going to have a lot of those same struggles against a guy like Douglas de Andrade. And not only that, with Cody Stamann, he fights world-class guys and he loses, you give him a pass. When he fights guys that he should be beating, he's not, other than Eddie Wineland, he's not necessarily looking like $1 million in there. So he's primed for the taking. I just think that the volume, de Andrade's not knocking out Stamann, I don't think. Cody Stamann's got a great chin. So it's volume versus power. And I think the judges are going to go towards the volume. But just watch back his last fight with Luan Lacerda, where he's a sizable favorite. He has advantages in the wrestling department, in the volume department, in the cardio department, in the experience department, and really doesn't put it all together very well. Mm-hmm. Almost loses. Could have lost, right? I would not have cried a foul had I lost that fight. But we won, we took it, we moved on. Now you see him again, minus 145 price tag. There is a little bit of hesitancy there. The guy, he's just bought a house. He's got a family. He's got so many things going on in his life outside of fighting that if he doesn't show up at his absolute best, could be a problem. Could be a problem. And the last thing is Douglas Andrade. If you've seen the guy without a shirt on, he's a problem, man. The guy's so jacked. He's always in shape. He's always ready to go. He just represents a dangerous opponent, a difficult opponent. So I think Stamann wins. But again, I feel like I could get owned on this one.
Fair points. And like even I mean probably when you look at his record, Douglas Silva de Andrade, his best performance or his best win on his record, a win in 2018 against Marlon Vera. He got 97 significant strikes there. Usually he's pretty low volume, and that's where Stamann could beat him. But you know, the more you kind of talk to me about it, it's like this line seems pretty accurate. I mean, Stamann's gonna have to lean on lean on the wrestling because it gets ugly if he doesn't. That's all I'm really gonna say. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, that's fair. Well, 2 fights back, his fight with Sergey Morozov. Like, he's getting owned in the first round. Like, Morozov takes him, he drops him, he takes him down in the first round, he's pounding on him. It's borderline 10-8 first round, but he doesn't put him away. Stamann's not really want to put guys away. So Douglas Andrade in the second round, he scores 3 knockdowns over Sergey Morozov and then knocks him out. So it's a clean performance, right? You mentioned that Gaetan Prello fight, first round knockout. His fight with Renan Barão. Renan Barão wasn't considered shot at the time. But again, Renan Barão outstruck him by the numbers, but the big significant blows, the damage, you see it all the time in the UFC. One guy throws a 3-punch combination. It's like a jab, little right hand and a leg kick. Nothing was super, nothing landed super hard. Nothing was super damaging, but you did still land 3 significant strikes. And the other guy just clubs him with an overhand right. And what do you score? One guy's winning 3-1 on the numbers. The other guy just clubbed him with an overhand right. He's winning. He's landed the best shot. So I love volume, but volume's not necessarily everything. When people complain they got robbed in the scorecards a lot of the time, they feel their fighter did the more work. They outworked them. They landed more shots. Look at this, man. It says we outstruck him in every single round, but it's like, what were the shots? So Stamann kind of touch and go, which is fine. It wins fights. It's volume. It's great. But Douglas Andrade is like looking for the kill shot. And these fans in Carolina, they may be cheering for that. And if they are, makes it dicey on a scorecard. So if it was minus 200, I'd be like, But I think the bookmakers are smart. The players are smart. They got this thing pretty much lined a lot more proper. A minus 145. And at that price tag, I'm going to have a poke at my boy Cody Stamann.
All right, we got Carlos Ulberg taking on Ihor Potieria, minus 430 for Ulberg, plus 360 for Potieria. This line's been getting steamed. And, I mean, this is the thing about it is that Ulberg comes into he was on the Contender Series. He comes into the UFC. And, I mean, round 1 against Kennedy and Nzechukwu absolutely just puts on a clinic. The guy's landing just an obscene number of strikes, and it's almost like he got way too excited, and he absolutely gassed himself out. He had 146 significant strikes, and that fight was ended 3 minutes into round 2. 146 significant strikes. Like, no wonder you punch yourself out. He takes on Fabio Charant in the follow-up. It wasn't the most brilliant performance, but you could tell he's just like, he minded his P's and Q's, stayed at range, fought really, really smart, and what won a very, very no-doubter, even mixing a little bit of wrestling, but like a no-doubter decision. And then the last 2 times, now he's picking his shots, but then capitalizing with knockouts. Like, he's looking like everything that you kind of hoped that he would be coming off of Contender Series, it's all coming together for him right now. Minus 430, minus 440. Number keeps growing, and it's going to grow all week. But he made massive adjustments after that first fight. His striking's obviously super, super solid. And I know Ihor got, the knockout in round 1, but it's like he was eating some shots against a battle-tested and frankly washed Mauricio Shogun Rua in that first round. He got the finish, but it wasn't looking all that pretty. It's like, I don't think this is remotely competitive when they strike at range. And we've seen with Ulberg, it's like he's shown some flashes of wrestling and takedown defense. It's like, he's a decent prospect, and he's priced as such. He was the third leg of the parlay. It's just like, I'm trying new little things. I'm just trying to beat some steam at some books that are a little bit slow to the draw. But, like, I understand completely why Ulberg is the favorite here. The guy's been making consistent improvements fight to fight. So I think he absolutely rolls here. What's your take?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. I think Carlos Ulberg's coming to his own. He's starting to swag out. He's got that confidence, and I think that's all he needed. When he came on the Contender Series, he's only like 3-0. He's got no MMA experience. He's got some kickboxing experience, and the biggest thing is he's Israel Adesanya's buddy. Apparently, they go hard rounds in the gym. The guy holds his own. He's good looking prospect. He's good looking cat. He's like offered a spot on New Zealand's version of The Bachelor. Yeah, he's popular, man. Why not sign this guy and bring him to the UFC? Smashes Bruno Oliveira on the Contender Series, throw him in the UFC. They give him a list, I guess, of like 10 people. And they're like, you pick whoever you want to fight. I'm sure he could have picked easier guys in Candy and Jakwu. He just figured this is going to be an entertaining fight. I'll blow through this guy, sure. Picks a guy that's 6'5" with an 83-inch reach. He's currently on a 3-fight winning streak in the UFC. Really not that bad. He picked him and had that crazy fight. So you're right about everything. Then very next fight against Fabio Cherant, conservative. Geez, I just gassed out. Let me take a different approach. But now he's feeling himself. Now you're seeing that he does have very solid kickboxing. He does train with one of the best, if not the best 185-pounder out there in Israel Adesanya. He's getting in world-class rounds. He's got UFC experience now. He's got MMA experience now. He's able to grapple. He's able to afford to train at a higher level and eat better food and be more comfortable and relaxed in training camps. I think you're just seeing a continuous better version of him. 34 years old, right? But 34 years old, not battle-worn. Not battle tested, doesn't have 50, 60 fights under his belt. He's still kind of fresh in this, still getting better, still making improvements. So I think Carlos Ulberg, something to like there. Ihor is awful, man. So Ihor fights on the Contender Series. And like, yeah, whatever. He pulls out, he's a wild man, right? He's got that Ukrainian bit of like kickboxing. He's very wild. His approach is like hard to get some timing on because it's kind of quirky, but he's got some power and he's willing to throw down, right? So he gets the win of the Contender Series. He fights Nikolai Negumereanu does not look good. Nikolai Negumereanu, who, for sake of reference, MMA math, gets blown out of there by Carlos Ulberg in a non-competitive fight, goes out there and he chews on Ihor. I think the UFC picked Ihor specifically for Shogun because I think management realized Shogun's done. This is his send-off. This is his farewell. What's like reasonable? Is there anybody on the roster like maybe he could beat? Yeah, Ihor. You're not trying to give Shogun some killer on his way out, right? The UFC would have back in the day just been like who's someone we're looking to build up, but they didn't in this instance. They gave him probably the worst guy on the roster, the lowest level guy on the roster. Thing is that Ihor is willing to bang, and that in itself is enough to beat Shogun. You just got to take some of his shots, walk through the fire, deliver it. Knocks out Shogun, a legend of the sport, a former world champion, and then does this stupid ass Ukrainian dance right in the center of the ring. Total disrespect. So the UFC needs to pay his dues now. Yeah, man, you don't pull that shit over legend. So they give him Ulberg, and I expect Ulberg to absolutely flatline him and knock him unconscious. But Ihor will come to fight. Ihor will come to throw down. But against like a precise technical kickboxer, yeah, puncher's chance, I get it. But yeah, if you come in swinging wild, he's going to counter you flush down the middle. And that's what I'm thinking happens here. So Carlos Ulberg under 1.5, Carlos Ulberg by knockout.
I like it. All right, we got Natan Levy taking on Pete Rodriguez, minus 230 for Levy, plus 200 for Pete. I mean, it's another fight that we already broke down before, and I think we both picked Levy, I believe. And the big question that we had here is just like, we don't really know what happens to Pete Rodriguez if a fight gets extended. Like, he's so new in the UFC, and we don't really know if he's got much of a grappling game, and he's still kind of a work in progress. We don't have all of the answers for him. The longest fight of his professional career, at the very least, is 2 minutes and 59 seconds. And that was a loss against Jack Della, who's an absolute stud. So there's no worries in that. We've seen Natan Levy at least be able to withstand some damage. And I feel like I mean, maybe Pete Rodriguez has some takedown defense that we're not really aware of. But yeah, if he can't extend, if he can't go a hard 15 minutes, then he's going to lose this down the stretch. I don't know if I necessarily love Natan Levy minus 230 pre-flop. Maybe a better spot to wait, make sure he survives the onslaught from Pete, who's very, very dangerous in the first 5 minutes. But I'll be looking for moments or a moment in time where it looks like Pete's Pete's looking a little bit gassed and hopping in live if the opportunity presents itself. But Natan Levy will be the pick for me. What about you?
Yeah, so your question, Mark, it's one of mine as well. But so the big question for you and Pete Rodriguez is like, can he fight for more than 3 minutes? Which is an excellent question. The question for me is like, can the guy wrestle? Because who's the best wrestler he's ever fought? And I'll tell you, you look at his record: George Olia 2-2, Yasar Guzman 0-1, Jose Rios Nava 2-3. This Roberto Pixley, well, Pixley didn't even shoot a takedown. Jack Maddalena, I'm pretty sure would be considered the best wrestler he's ever fought, but Jack never actually even shot a takedown. And his last time against Mike Jackson, please, come on. I don't know that this guy can stuff a takedown. Whereas I know with Natan Levy, he can shoot a takedown and he will shoot lots of them. And to me, I think that's definitely something that would favor. Yeah, durability, experience, the ability to fight past 3 minutes, all good stuff. But Natan Levy, last time out against Genaro Valdez, I thought he didn't look all that good. You know, he was struggling a little bit on the feet with Valdez. But what bailed him out time and time again was the wrestling. 6 takedowns scored against him. His fight with Mike Breeden, 9 takedowns against Mike Breeden. His fight with Rafa Garcia. And Rafa's the dude that's putting takedowns on most guys. And he does take Levy down to 7. But Levy had 3 takedowns on him as well. Had good scrambling. He actually comes from a karate background. He's most comfortable, you know, moving linear straight direction, staying on his back foot and throwing singular strikes. Like that's what his base is. That's him at his most comfortable. But he's adapted to MMA that he's probably better at chain wrestling, shooting multiple takedowns, getting some of them. He has good gas tank. He's got good pace. He's got ability to wear on guys. And I think that's all good stuff here because in this specific fight with old Pistol Pete Rodriguez, 1, we don't know if the guy can wrestle, but we know Natan Levy can. 2, we don't know if this guy can go for more than 3 minutes, but we know Natan Levy can. 3, even if his striking was that good, Levy comes from a striking background. He trains at Syndicate MMA. He's got guys in the gym that are a lot better than Pete Rodriguez that he trains with on a day-to-day basis. And not only that, I mean, he's fought in multiple rounds in the UFC. I would consider that he has a lot more experience at this point. And Rodriguez, again, it's all about favors. So he takes the fight with Maddalena as like a 4-1 underdog on like a week's notice and gets pulverized. So they give him Mike Jackson as a I'm sorry. But now it's time to sink or swim, man. You're either going to do this or you're not. And I think it's not a great first fight when you look at it in that regard. It's not hey, I might be able to spark this guy in the first 3 minutes like I normally do. Hey, I might be able to keep this thing standing and show everyone that I've got some deep cardio. It's like, you're probably going to have to go 15 at the bare minimum against this guy because he can take one hell of a punch. He trains with better guys at a higher level. He's got more experience. He's got better wrestling, and his striking really ain't half bad either. So could he get himself in trouble playing with the strikes from the outside? Yeah, he could. He did a little bit against Genaro Valdez, but at the end of the day, he shoots the takedown. That's what's most effective. That's what's going to get the job done. And minus 230, yeah, again, I don't like it, but it's MMA, right? The people that guys like, they're going to bet. People like them, they're betting them. So the market moves the price. It's the bottom line. I like him. I think other people like him. But could this be this week's Drew Dober and he gets flatlined and the end of the first round? Yeah, it could be because Rodriguez throws heat. And even though Natan Levy's got a hell of a chin, so did Drew Dober. So like Dems to beats. It's MMA. Anything can happen.
And the tricky one with this too, in terms of prize picks, 2.5 takedowns. I mean, I like the more like. But that is very, very reliant on, like, maybe Levy just takes him down and subs him immediately because we really don't know what type of ground game, if any sort of ground game, Pete Rodriguez has. He's a mystery wrapped up in he's
Levy went 3 rounds of Mike Breeden, right, and went 3 rounds of Genaro Valdez, and even on the Contender Series, he subbed that Shaheen Santana, but he subs him in the 3rd round, so. I'm thinking the over on the takedowns for that one, but you're absolutely right. It's like, why would you think that? Have you ever seen Pete Rodriguez get up a few times? It's like, no, I actually haven't. You ever seen Pete Rodriguez stuff a few takedowns in a fight? It's like, geez, I also haven't. One time as an amateur, but he lost that fight. So, what do you got to go off of, right?
It's greasy.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. It's just, the price. You're betting Natan Levy not because you like Natan Levy, more so because you don't really like Pete Rodriguez, and that makes it tricky.
Yeah, I have too many questions about Pete Rodriguez and his ability to fight 15 minutes, which he may need to do if he wants to pull this one out against Natan Levy. All right, we got Ji-Yeon Kim taking on Mandy Bohm. Minus 185 for Kim, plus 160 for Bohm. Who you got?
I mean, they don't call Bohm bum for no reason, right? Like she's shown absolutely nothing since coming to the UFC. When she was fighting for Bellator prior, like she had a couple stints in like that those Euro series for Bellator. She looked okay. She fought a couple decent fighters. She fought for TKO up in Quebec. Like Mandy Bohm at the time, because she wasn't quite bum then. She serviceable, decent grappling, decent striking, methodical, right? But ever since coming to the UFC, she's like massively gun shy. I don't know if it's nerves. I don't know if it's pre-fight anxiety. Whatever causes her to get in there, she just completely freezes up. Now that first loss against Ariana Lipski, I'm prone to give her a pass on that one because Lipski turned out to be okay and has some decent credentials. It's her UFC debut, but if facts are facts, man, she got knocked down twice against Lipski and got outstruck 87-36. She just allowed Lipski to do whatever she wanted. No sense of urgency in the slightest bit. Just went through the motion. But again, UFC debut, tough spot. Former KSW champion in Lipski. Okay, fair. What about this second fight against Victoria Leonardo? To that one, my God, it's so complacent, Paul, so complacent to just stand there and get outstruck. And again, gets outstruck in that fight. Sorry, she landed, I think, 52 to 39 against Leonardo, but backs up the entire time, gives up the 2 takedowns, didn't really seem to be in it. Eric Nixick, because she's in Vegas now, Eric Nixick's giving her corner advice. He's one of the best coaches in the game, and he's telling her, you need to have a sense of urgency. You need to want it. You need to go for it. And she just, to me, had zero ability to do that. She was continuously backing up. She didn't hold her ground. She seems to have no pop in her strikes at all. So opponents just don't respect it. You're not backing them up, and the volume isn't quite there. So these were all things that we broke down the last time that she was supposed to fight Jeon Kim, because Jeon Kim is quite the opposite. She's got a 72-inch reach on her, which is pretty solid for the division, but she's all volume. Last time out against Jocelyn Edwards, she puts up 78. Prior to that, against Priscilla Cachoeira, landed 170. Prior to that, against Molly McCann, landed 122. This is big volume, right? She's getting generally on the wrong side of these decisions. She's in a lot of close fights. She's currently on a 4-fight losing streak. But there's a reason the UFC has not cut this girl despite being 1-5 in her last 6 fights. It's the fact that a lot of these fights are very close, and she probably should have won them. Unfortunately, the judges just aren't siding with her. But the volume's certainly there. The striking's certainly there. The cardio, I think, is there. And this is all good stuff against Mandy Bohm, because if she just stands there on the outside, she's going to get chewed up. If she tries to clinch up and force this fight to the ground, I don't think she's got the offensive wrestling to just force Kim down. Even if she does, I think Kim probably pops back up. And when this thing gets dirty, that's where Mandy Bohm just goes the other way. And look at that Priscilla Cachoeira fight. Priscilla Cachoeira is getting beat up, but at the end of the round, she is throwing elbows and splitting Kim's face open, and the round ends. Kim should win, but they raise Priscilla Cachoeira's hand because she went for it. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen with Mandy Bohm. And as much as I would like to say, being in Vegas and having Nixick and now a 3rd fight in the UFC, all these things should be good for her. She's not a prospect anymore. I don't see anything from her skills that would suggest that she's like, a specialist in any one area. She doesn't really have any one element of her game that I would say is advanced. And I just don't think that mentally you're able to just turn the corner like that. Kim's been getting a lot of these bum decisions, but against Bohm, she'll get the right decision. So I think Jeon Kim probably gets this thing by. Should be a unanimous, but you know how this sport goes. It'll be a split or a majority or something stupid, but I think she wins all 3 rounds.
Yeah, I ran this one through the CF dot model, and it just said flat out pass from a betting perspective. Minus 185, 4 straight losses for Kim. But yeah, I mean, she should have. I love Priscilla Cachoeira, obviously. She's my girl. But that fight in a different judges, 3 different judges in there score it completely differently. You know what I mean? It's like it was super greasy. She had 170 significant strikes there. I haven't seen, and that's really what it comes down to, is just like there has been a little bit of action coming in on Mandy Bohm, and I can understand 4-fight losing streak, but it's like she had a competitive striking affair against the current champion of this division too. So it's like she can hang. She can 100% hang at range, and where she's going to edge this fight out should be on volume. Mandy Bohm has got, 40 significant strikes in both of her matchups here in the UFC. Kim can clear 120, 130. I mean, 81.5 on PrizePicks. I like the over there. I haven't seen really much of a finishing ability from Bohm. So over 81.5 significant strikes for Kim. Maybe that's how I have my any sort of investment in this fight this week. Minus 185 is just not. There's 12 fights on the card. I don't have to be invested in all of them. Kim will be the pick, but we move on to greener pastures. We got Gabe Green taking on Bryan Battle. Gabe Green, a minus 130 favorite. Bryan Battle can be had for plus 110. Who you got?
Yeah, this one pains me. I'm going to take Bryan Battle. He's the underdog. I don't have a whole lot of underdogs on this card, so I need one of them. Bryan Battle, hopefully the guy. But what I don't feel good about it is that Gabe Green's supposed to fight Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews gets hurt. Bryan Battle jumps into his spot. So is he in shape? Is he ready to go? He took a beating against Renat Fakhretdinov his last time out. I mean, a beating. So, yeah, 6 months later, again, where's your head at? Where's your health at? Is he in great shape? Was he chomping at the bit, messaging UFC his matchmakers being like, get me on a card? Or is it the fact that they're in Carolina and he's from Carolina, that he was the local guy that took the fight on short notice? None of that bodes particularly well for a Bryan Battle pick, but I think he can win this fight. Gabe Green makes his money on coming forward and just being grimy. He's a grimy type fighter. He likes to try to track down his opponent. He doesn't have great footwork. He doesn't cut the cage off particularly well, but he'll throw a ton of volume and he'll try to stay in your face. When he fought Ian Garry, those styles are supposed to work against guys like Ian Garry, right? But Ian Garry, again, for as much as people don't like him, and we've already broken down his fight earlier, he moves well laterally and he's fast. And so if he wants to matador a guy like Gabe Green, he's going to be able to do so. And I think he did an excellent job of doing that. How does Gabe Green match up against Bryan Battle? Bryan Battle moves very well laterally. He fights extremely well off his back foot. And if you look at his fight on The Ultimate Fighter against Andre Petrovsky, he fights an excellent fight against a legitimate fighter who's a good wrestler, good grappler, a general all-around threat because of his ability to evade and fight off his back foot. Much of the same as the story against Trejan Gore, his official UFC debut, whereas Trejan Gore is more of a power puncher, more of a guy that's going to try to get in your face and put some heavy power on you, and he does an excellent job of moving back and just using that volume. Against Fakhretdinov just mauled him with the wrestling. Like, oh my God, he got a hold of him. It was game over. He was tossing Bryan Battle around like nothing. Bryan had zero answer for him, and you could see the confidence leave his body. But Gabe Green, I don't think Gabe Green's using that game plan. I don't think he would be able to, even if he wanted to. So what he's probably going to do is chase Bryan Battle around. Bryan Battle fights well off his back foot, has decent cardio, has decent counter strikes, is the hometown favorite here. Will probably have the crowd behind him, and I can see him just winning this decision. Competitive decision, and this is a competitive line, but Bryan Battle plus 110. If I want more dog money on it, which I would like to have a lot more dog money on it, then I would take Bryan Battle by decision. Like, I just don't see him knocking out Gabe Green, who's shown that he's a very tough customer, got flatlined by Johan Lioness, and just immediately came back to life, got up and kicked his ass. The guy's tough. So is Drew Dober, but of course the MMA god's just out to get me. Anything can happen, I get it. But in this spot, I think like stylistically it'd be a better fight for Bryan Battle. So I will take him. Don't feel great about it, but he's the underdog. So what can you expect?
My biggest concern with Bryan Battle is this guy can't wrestle, Cody. He can't wrestle at all. Gabe Green's not exactly a massive.
Fakhretdinov's good.
It's not even just that, though. Look through the rest of his fights. Taken down twice by Trejan Gore. Taken down twice by Gilbert Urbina. I mean, it's not pretty, Cody. Is Gabe Green gonna one takedown on you? Gabe Green has super solid durability. 15-minute fight. Uh-huh. If he sticks to a bit of a wrestling game plan here, I think it's in the realm of possibility. He's got 2 takedowns against Phil Rowe. Took Garry down once, and it was relatively competitive striking affair between the two of them. I don't know, man. Maybe we should just have a second shoey bet, a 1-for-1 on this one. I'll take Gabe Green.
Second shoey bet. You know what? You got yourself a deal because I got the massive favorite on the first shoey bet, so I'm going to give you the massive favorite on the second shoey bet.
Well, I mean, that other one is a 3-1 bet.
Paul, I don't want to hear it, bro. It's an underdog for underdog.
You could be showing up and doing 4 next episode, just so people know. I think it's more likely that it's like a 1-1, or I'm doing 2.
Completely likely situation,
which is in play. I don't know. I think Bryan Battle's wrestling is a big liability for me. Gabe Green's durability has definitely held up in a bunch of fights for him. I think it's going to be a close competitive fight, but having a little shoey action here keeps it interesting for all parties. All right, and finally we got Jessica Rose Clark taking on Tainara Lisboa. It's a straight pick 'em now. She was, I mean, I took her at like, and it's not a big bet. I was just beating the line movement at a certain book, but I got it at like plus 147 on Sunday. And the money has been pouring in on Lisboa. I'm not gonna lie, Cody. I don't know much about her except for the fact that she's like a Muay Thai specialist, and Jessica Rose Clark has been armbarred in her last 2 fights. Like, it has not been a great look. I mean, it was against Egger and Stoliarenko, who are both very, very solid at judo. Both have excellent arm bars. Don't get me wrong. It's interesting. I don't have enough information about Lisboa. I've got CLV. I'm gonna pick Lisboa to win the stand-up war here. But like, do you have like an inside track? Do you have any info on her takedown defense ability? Because that seems to be the natural path to victory for Jessica Rose Clark here if she's gonna come away victorious. I mean, pull the Jocelyn Edwards game plan out and do that rinse and repeat. 5 takedowns. It was really, really ugly, but she won a pretty clear unanimous decision there. That seems to be how these two match up. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Again, we've been talking about all the show about the UFC doing favors. I almost feel like they're trying to help Jess Rose Clark. Here's somebody that her social media is fire. She does an excellent job of marketing herself, right? I think the UFC knows, hey, this is someone that we can throw on cards that has a good following, that has an interesting enough style. But they've been matching her up with girls that are good, man. Stephanie Egger, you tossed her to the ground, and unfortunately, she locks up the armbar. Julia Stoliarenko, the Lithuanian Ronda Rousey, yeah, much of the same. Like, she has a ton of wins by armbar, and then grab this one. The thing with this one is that Jess Rose Clark tapped. The ref didn't really see it right away. Julia held it a little bit long. She broke her arm, right? So she's coming back from a broken arm. You know, how good have you been able to train? How good has it been able to heal? Jess Rose Clark is 35 years old, right? So, and you're going to get the best version of her? Like, more than likely not. She's coming off a long layoff. She's coming off a layoff due to a significant injury. Mm-hmm. She's lost her last 2 fights. Even the wins, they're fairly low level for the most part. Like, I just think there's enough reason to be like, I wouldn't want to jump into the business. But what she does well is she's physically strong, and she's good at holding up girls against the cage. Pretty much all of her wins is from her just being tougher than their opponent. Her debut win over Paige Van Zandt. Actually, sorry, she debuted in the UFC, cost me so much, Mandy. Beat Beck Rawlings, and then beat Paige Van Zandt. But just because she's tougher than them, she's able to grind them up against the cage. And her fight with Sarah Alpart grinds her real good, takes her down, puts a pretty good beating on her. Cardio looked good, physicality looked good. Again, if you follow her social media, I suggest you do, especially if you like tattoos. She's jacked, man. Like, this girl's very strong legs, and I think she fights the proper game plan. Again, she's in Las Vegas. She's got excellent coaches around her. She fights the exact same way against Jocelyn Edwards. She tried to fight like that against Egger Stoliarenko. It just didn't work because their styles were conducive to take me down. I can grab the arm. I have good grappling. I have better grappling. I have opportunistic submission attempts. Against Lisboa, I don't think you can get a great read on her, but everything that Rose Clark has been struggling with recently is not Lisboa. Lisboa is a striker. She is a Muay Thai striker. She is not particularly good with the grappling. She's not particularly good off the cage. So Jess Rose Clark will be able to just fight the game plan that she's been fighting the last 4 or 5 fights. And instead of having that pushback that she's been getting recently, I think she'll have a lot of success. Now, Lisboa, this is a girl that fought Valentina Shevchenko in a Muay Thai fight back in 2010, right? So 13 years ago, she's Muay Thai fight with Valentina Shevchenko. Dope. Her MMA debut is against Norma Dumont. And it's in 2016, right? So 7 years ago, she makes her MMA debut. But she gets subbed in the first round by Norma Dumont. Okay, then she takes 3 years off before beating an 0-0 opponent, who she took deep into the 3rd round. Then she took a full year off after that, 13 months to be exact, before beating another 0-0 opponent. Then the Shooto Brazil 103 fight against Lorani Santos. You can see it. Her grappling is not good. Her physicality is not all that good. Striking is okay, but this is an MMA fight. She loses that fight, and then she just picks up over the next 3 years since then. She's beaten an 0-0 opponent, an 0-1 opponent, and a 1-4 opponent. That 1-4 opponent, Paul, that she beat in her last time out, which was effectively 13 months ago, She beats her late in the second round by submission. A 1-4 opponent, which is not indicative that they're bad. You'd have to watch the tape. You'd have to see. She's operating at a very, very low level. She is a Muay Thai striker who's been fighting since she's 18 years old. She's now 32, not super old, but over the last like 13 years, she's managed to fight 6 times professionally in MMA and a handful of times in Muay Thai. So like the strength of schedule is not there. The recent tape that you can go back to is not there. And even though she's subbing girls on the regional scene in her last couple, they're very low level opponents. So now you're going to make a UFC debut, which in itself is very difficult. You're going to take on by far the best opponent you've ever faced, and it's not your preferred type of fight, which would be a striking battle or a terrible grappler that you could out grapple because you're grappling slightly better than hers. It's a tough fight against Jessie Just Rose Clark, who's frothing at the mouth to get back in there, wants to compete, physically strong, has way more experience, and has a winning type of game plan in this particular matchup. So I would have to take Rose Clark even money, but as I say that,
you might as well wait. Keeps moving, buddy.
Yeah, she broke her arm. She's been off for 10 months. She's 35. Her claim to fame was head kicking that little idiot with the face tattoos. Like, what was his name?
Plus 100, plus 100 in some spots right now. Like, the market keeps moving in that direction. Like, I have no idea really how it's going to play out. I don't have enough information.
I don't think you can.
And
one girl never fights. The other girl just broke her arm.
And it's like she's got a couple submission wins, but it's against people with literally zero experience or negative experience on the regional scene in Brazil. It's like, how does that equate to what, I mean, strength of schedule, it's not even remotely close who's been in there with the better fighters. And the one time that Lisboa's been in there with somebody of UFC caliber, she got finished in the first round. So, I mean, it's a volatile one. We'll see how it all shakes out. I'll pick Lisboa because I bet her as I steam chased. That's really all it came down to. But yeah, I mean, you make a lot of good points. I'm not going to be stunned to lose that bet. Not going to lie, Cody. All right, we are just about out of time here. But before we go, Cody, hit him with the PRP.
Yeah, it's a chalk heavy PRP this week. But again, there's a lot of these even money, greasy type fights. So as long as we get the proper bounces, there will be value. But we're gonna go with Jailton Almeida. We're gonna go with Anthony Smith, even money. Daniel Rodriguez, dog number 1. We're gonna go with Alex Morono, Court McGee, Carl Williams, Cody Stamann, Carlos Ulberg, Natan Levy, Yeon Kim. Bryan Battle is dog number 2, and then Jessie Just Rose Clark is another even money. So 2 underdogs, 2 even monies, and 8 favorites. Which one of those 8 favorites will shit in the apple pie? I'm waiting to find out myself. But hopefully we got them lower on the list, or just nobody does it. Wouldn't that be great? Outside of that, yeah, tough, close, competitive card. A lot of greasy spots, but we love MMA. This is what we do. If you don't want to watch, or if you think fights are fixed, or if you're down on your luck and you're down on yourself, maybe it wasn't for you. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm excited about this. The Bellator card on the Friday, it's weak as shit. It's another one of these European Bellator cards. So I don't know that I want to waste my time tape studying it too deep. But when I said the whole thing about this is our thing about UFC greasy card on a Saturday, it's also my thing, greasy Bellator card on a Friday. So lots of spots, lots of opportunities. Don't feel like you got to force your hand in any one spot. But yeah, I mean, hopefully this is the week. I always say it, but hopefully this is the one, my man.
Dude, the betting on MMA, there's never been more opportunity. What was the one? There was a card last week. I found a book that was way off market. Yeah, Battle on the Beach. That was super easy. They had this one book had they had Will fight. They were making totals for fights that literally the market had no totals, and it was Kakramanov fight and the Justin Scoggins, my boy. I was just I don't really know who these guys they're fighting are, but I think these fights seem like they're pretty big setups. So I had those guys parlayed, and then I had fight doesn't start round 3 in both of them. That was super, super easy money. And I mean, that card was super hilarious. It's a lot of the times people are they're fighting in a gymnasium. It's they were actually fighting in a gymnasium. When you saw the wide shot, that was not, it wasn't like Ryzen or any of the one or KSW or anything where it's that's a big show with, serious production. But I enjoyed it. It was, I probably enjoyed it because I degened and gambled and won money on it, to be perfectly honest. But you can bet on so much stuff these days. Yeah. It's never. I think if I'm gonna give complete honesty to some people, it's just like, and this is not like, not everyone's gonna want to do it. It's like, it's kind of less about like some picks these days, and it's just like, if you are able to have multiple books and price shop, the guys that you want to have, you're gonna give yourself a leg up in a lot of situations. Some of these books, especially for these lower end cards, move very, very slowly to where the market goes. That doesn't necessarily, the market moving doesn't necessarily mean that the market is right, but a lot of the times, except for like Invicta, the steam in that has been horrible.
Well, talk to Pat Mayo and he'll have a theory about that.
Yeah, exactly.
But Invicta is the biggest moneymaker for his theory of all time.
It is. Yeah, no. But yeah, like there's never been more opportunity out there. So it's like, you don't have to get in. I know you do your PRP, do all of that type of stuff. You don't have to be invested in 12 fights in the UFC when there's like, I'm on best fight odds right now. There's Aries FC. They've got like 12 fights there. There's EFC Worldwide. There's Bellator. And then there's the UFC. There's a KSW card on
same day as the UFC.
On the same day. There's RFA available. It's like there's lots of money-making opportunities, spots. And it's just like, and frankly, the UFC cards aren't as hot as they used to be. Let's be perfectly honest. A lot of the talent is spread out over the MMA landscape these days, and yeah, don't feel like you only have to be a UFC specialist. You can spread out a little bit. I mean, for me, what works best is price shopping in between different shops. Like you'll find in some of these regional shops, like big time discrepancies in terms of the pricing. So I don't know. That's just some food for thought before we get out of here. I think that's
hell yeah, man.
Probably it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For Cody Saftic, producer Megan, I'm Paul Shaughnessy, saying goodbye and good luck.